Okay, after that, I'm on to page 8 now. Decide what types of support that you need. Every organization wants general support funds. Those are unrestricted funds that you can use for whatever you want that's related to your mission. I mean, you can't take it and go off to Jamaica. But if you're providing job training, you could you could use it to pay the accountant, you could use it for the staff people, for supplies, whatever. Oftentimes those are harder to get, but if you have people just giving donations to your organization, you could use those for anything related to your mission. Special project funds are money that you get for a specific project, and that's more so what the federal grants would be. Seed money is money to either begin a new program or a new organization. Some foundations will give for that. Capital campaign funds are money to either purchase a building or to renovate a building. Program-related investments are essentially a loan, which some foundations will give. Emergency funds are usually money for if something happens to the organization that was beyond your control, not just because you ran out of money and you need some. And then in-kind donations that you can get people to give, equipment, supplies, or services. Okay, then after that, gather needed information and extra copies of supplies. Oftentimes when you're writing a proposal, you may have more things written than you realize, so the person who's writing it doesn't have to start from scratch. So you want to go back and look at any old proposals that you have, any solicitation letters that you sent out, your brochures, your website, annual reports, your bylaws, all of these things to find information that describes your group so you don't have to start making up new descriptions. And then some of these other items are things that you will need to attach to your proposal, such as the IRS 501c3 letter that says you're a tax-exempt organization, your bylaws, articles of incorporation, list of board of directors, and so on. The reason I'm putting this here is that a good way to organize your fundraising campaign, if we want to call it that, is to get all these things together up front, because you don't want it to be at the last minute you're ready to submit your proposal and then nobody can find, a copy of your bylaws, or the list of board of directors is outdated and then you have to spend time getting that together. So it's a good idea to get all this stuff done up front. Also, resumes tend to be a problem because people don't update them. So you don't, and then also it's a problem because you have to get it from somebody else. It's outside of your control. So you want to try to get all of these things as early as possible so that they don't come back to haunt you later on when you're ready to submit, and then you just need that one piece of information that you can't get. Okay, the question was for federal grants, are these uploaded or are they hard copies? It could be either one. For a while, the federal government was moving toward having everything uploaded online, but I think that the grants.gov system was getting kind of overloaded, so they started accepting some hard copies again. But your best bet is, if you can, get all these things electronically, to get them, because the federal government as well as foundations are moving more and more toward having everything electronic. So that was a good question. It's good to have all this electronically if you can. Yes?
First of all, you know you're doing a good job.
Thank you. He said I'm doing a good job. Okay, he asked what the IRS 990 form is, and that is essentially equivalent to your organization's income tax form. This is where you report all your income and expenses and so forth. Even though you don't pay taxes, you still have to complete this form, and you most likely are going to want to get an accountant to do that for you, unless you have some serious accounting skills yourself. Yes? No, Okay, she asked resumes, who is that referring to? Usually, I don't remember ever seeing anyone ask for your board of directors resumes. They usually want to see the name of the person, what their title is, what their, or their occupation, where they work. I've never seen them ask for resumes. But what you do need resumes of are like the staff people, the executive director, whatever program staff. Also, if you're going to hire any consultants to work with the project, you're going to want to get their resumes. And you may decide to set up an advisory committee. And in that case, you would want to get their resumes as well. And I'll mention something about advisory committees, although I plan to mention it elsewhere, but since it came up. If your staff does not cover all of the skill areas that you need for your project, one way to deal with that is to set up an advisory committee so that you have some, let's say you need a psychiatrist, that you're doing some mental health kind of program, and you don't have funds to hire a psychiatrist on staff, but you can set up an advisory committee, maybe with 3 psychiatrists, and they meet quarterly, and they agree to look over your plans and so forth and give you advice. So advisory committees are a good way to flesh out and round out the skills of your staff. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. Okay, now we're going to skip over to page 17. The other items in between, please read when you get a chance. Okay, the heart of this presentation is preparing a compelling proposal. And now, each proposal may be different, but I'm going to go over the parts of a proposal that are generally pretty much universal. I also wanted to mention that this is a case where this will vary based on whether you're applying to a foundation or to the federal government. I think I mentioned earlier that the federal government generally, when they release a request for proposals, they have a certain program that they want done, and they explain to you what it is they want done. And if you're interested, then you apply to get the funds. Normally, or most of the time with foundations, they give generally in an area, like for, let's say for early childhood development, but they don't tell you specifically what they want done. So you come up with whatever the program is you want to do, and you ask them for money. The flip side of that would be the federal government has the Head Start program. There are all kinds of regulations about how the Head Start program is done. So if you want to apply to do a Head Start program, that means you're going to do it the way that they say to do it. So that's the main difference. So as I go over this, the way it comes into play with the foundation versus the federal government is a bit different, but I think the principles are still generally the same.